so you guys know where your money's going, our club funds go to help students within anthropology work on theses, present at conferences, and everything else, you know, related to their degree. So all the money that's made tonight does go back to the students, just so you know. So as all of you should know, we have a very special guest here tonight. His name is Les Stroud. Les Stroud is a Canadian native to Toronto. He is a musician, a filmmaker, and a survival expert. He is best known as the creator, director, writer, producer, cameraman, and host of the television series Survivorman. He was labeled the most trusted man in survival by Outside Magazine. He has been with Discovery Channel since 2001. So let's all bring him out here.
Yes!
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. This is really great. I appreciate it a lot. We can just keep this. Wow, this is wild.
Survival.
Guys in front of we can keep this really casual. I mean, hell, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about at this point. So the reason why, the initial reason why I'm here was I came to work with a professor at the university, Jeff Meldrum, on one of the series that I'm working on right now. And so yes, indeed, Ali, who just introduced me, had wondered if I could come and do a talk like this. And I don't do them very often, but I always have fun when I do them. So and I'm in the middle of production. I mean, literally I was in the bush just like within the last 8-10 days, and I'll be back out in the bush again in 3 days shooting a new show. So this is right in between of everything I'm doing this year in Survivorman production schedule. But I thought, well, let's go meet the people of Idaho.
Woo! All right!
So clearly, one or two of you here have seen the show Survivorman.
Woo! Yeah!
I'll tell you how we can make this work. As I said, I'm pretty casual right now, and I forgot to have a cup of coffee, so I might fall asleep in front of you anyway. What we'll do is, this is pretty much going to be just like one big old Q&A, and I can take questions about anything. You can ask me anything you want, and we're willing to chat about, talk about Survivorman. For those of you who might know my music, Survivorman Bigfoot, or anything else that go on filmmaking, you name it. So start mulling up the questions in your mind now, and by all means, don't be shy. We're just going to make this a whole night of Q&A and have it's like basically think we're just all hanging in the same living room, just chilling, and we'll talk stories. Now, this whole thing, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but Survivorman is now, it's been on air for 15 years. Yeah, 15 years.
All right.
Yeah, and I mean, there was nothing about survival on TV before Survivorman came along. It's in over 120 countries worldwide, and I just recently learned, because I signed with a distributor to get the show out there a bit more, that I've actually done 59 episodes.
Wow.
And when you do them for real, that's a lot. And I don't know what chuckles. I know who you know. Actually, that's been a real, I will say, point of pride for me, but also keeps me humble, is that from day one when I started doing Survivorman, my only agenda was to teach survival skills, because that's what I was. I was a survival dude, an instructor, but I just happened to know filmmaking. That was my only agenda, teach some survival skills. And when I came up with the thought that, well, what if I really went out and survived and just filmed it, I thought, well, that'd be perfect. What a great dramatic way to teach these skills. But following on that thought, instantaneously was, well, I can't take a camera crew. What's the point? If I have a camera crew with me, it's not survival. In many ways, it kind of almost, it is, but there's some cheat involved in the fact that I know I'm going home. And I know I'm going to go home in 7 days, or 5 days, or 10 days, whatever I'm doing. But, so how can I make it as realistic as possible? And the idea was, no camera crew. Nobody there, nobody following me around, because I'm human. You can't do that sort of thing and not give in to temptation. So, to this day, you know, it has been kept honorably in that state. The Survivorman you see me do today, and then I'm shooting next week, is the same Survivorman I shot way back in the year 2000. So, and I wanted to keep it real like that. And it's given me a trust and a connection with people when I meet them that you just can't buy that. You know, it's really pretty magical. It has taken me around the world and shown me some amazing things. Did any of you see the series I did? It was really Survivorman, but I called a different name called Beyond Survival, where I went out with all the remote cultures, survival, Malaysian sea gypsies. Right. That was actually one of my favorite things to do. And, it still was kind of Survivorman, but that was really a magical time as well. I'm very proud of that series. And that series too. I mean, we got the tattoos, they're still here. With a stick and a nail, and the scarification in Africa. That was an intense year for me. Survivorman has taken a strange trajectory, and up and down with my life, really, and with pop culture and things that are going on. Yet, as I've already said, it has maintained what it is. The core of Survivorman is still just me. Seriously? It's just me out there alone, trying to survive, teaching you how to survive, and going through it. And at this point, it's morphed into some really cool ideas. This year, just so you know, I'm in the middle. There's 15 brand new Survivormans coming on. Right? Woo! I will be, some of them I've sort of linked them to what I call legends, which is I hook my storyline off of real survival situations that happen. Maybe a couple, maybe a solo guy, maybe a family. And I go through what they went through, or at least in part show either what they did right, what they did wrong, what I would have done, could have, should have, would have, kind of thing. And so I'm doing that this year. In 3 days, I will be in Oregon, in a Gold Beach area, and basically going out to kind of relive a story that happened to a family that went out to, they were doing mushroom picking, and they got lost for us in like 10 days or something like that out there. Thought to myself, I should do an Australian show, I should go to the Kalahari. Then I researched and I think, well, wait a minute, what kind of survival story is there to actually tell? And is there something that I can actually teach and go and walk through and show? And if there is, boom, I go. And that's why you have survival in a desert, but survival in the Arizona desert is a lot different from survival in the Kalahari desert. And it's a lot different from survival in the outback. So it's desert survival, but very different. And I love it when I get to incorporate different primitive earth skills that I haven't shown before. Like, well, did you know that here they always use this plant to do this thing? It's like, whoa, that's awesome. And then I get to show that to you and sort of live through it. So, following your question and answer, does anybody recognize this guy? I can and playing all the time. And yes, 6 of the shows this year are indeed Survivorman Bigfoot. So with that, I'm ready to open it up right now because, as I said, I want to keep this nice and casual. This was sort of not planned, kind of planned. You guys are here, obviously somebody planned it. But, I came here just going. I just want to go and chat with you guys and talk, tell any stories you want. So let's see some hands. Who's got first, sir? There you go.
You mentioned on your first show Survivorman Bigfoot, and you may have answered it in your other shows. I haven't seen them all yet. About DNA evidence. I was wondering if you received that information from the study that Meldrum PhD did, or from other sources, possibly.
Actually, you're very lucky here in Pocatello. Is it Pocatello?
Yeah.
Pocatello. You have Jeff Meldrum, which is one of the foremost scientific experts on the subject matter itself. What I do when I approach the subject is I come at it just like I'm one of you. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not a this. What I am is a guy who's done a lot of time in the bush and has experienced certain things. For the DNA evidence and certain elements like that, I'm still an open book. I'm still learning myself and challenging the perspectives that are put out there. And in fact, I had a discussion with Jeff earlier today. I said, no, and I actually said, tell me about Meldrum PhD, tell me about the DNA. And at this point, well, here, I'm going to explain it really poorly because I got it from Jeff and can explain it much better. But one of the problems we have with hair samples that are found is that the morphology of this hair is such that it doesn't actually yield the kind of DNA that is so easily readable in other creatures. And so it actually is its own worst enemy that way. But as far as I'm aware, I'll make this statement, there's no, and I'm looking at Jeff right now, there's no serious definitive study of DNA at the moment, is there, Jeff? No study that's produced definitive results. This is something that you got to look into and research and go over. And I'm still bringing that slowly. For Survivorman Bigfoot, I'm bringing that into the story as my brain grasps it. And as soon as I grasp it, which can take a long time, then I can go, okay, I got this now, and I see how it pertains to everything else I'm doing. Now I can share it on the show in a way. On a personal note, I'm not a fast learner. I was never an A student, so I understood what it was to not grasp things, really quickly. So because of that, that has always made me, I think, a very good teacher, because I can look in someone's eyes and go, and they're not getting it. So, and then I can shift and adjust. Instead of going, why aren't you getting this? It's so obvious, duh. I don't do that because I was that guy at one point. So with Survivorman Bigfoot, it's the same thing. I want to move slowly along the trail, and as I get things, I can share back to you. And the DNA is one of the last remaining vestiges of stuff I just don't quite have my hands on yet until I've read all the reports. My understanding is that I'm an associate, I would just say this, disagrees with the Meldrum PhD study as being something that is perfectly viable and vindicated at this point. Yes, ma'am.
I watched, I think it was your first series of the Bigfoot in British Columbia this week, and you seemed like kind of frightened how it dealt with the scenes. Were you as scared then? There was an episode sometime back in South America that nighttime the jaguar really scared you.
Right.
Would you say British Columbia or like looking at the Bigfoot is as scary as that?
Well, I would suggest, first of all, I hate to use the word scare. Scary. No scaredy cat. But how about deep concern for my personal well-being? In the case of the jaguar, I mean, when it comes to handling wildlife and dealing with wildlife, I mean, I have a perspective that is fairly confident and fairly comfortable. I'm quite comfortable with large predators and how to react and how to respond. That jaguar, he was definitely intent on me, but I also had reason on my side. I'm not 90 pounds, I'm a grown man. He's a big jaguar, but I'm a grown man and I have a knife, and a machete, and so I have, tools at my disposal. But at least I got a fighting chance with this dude. But when it comes to Sasquatch, I'm still dealing with the unknown. I've never seen one. So I'm still dealing with the unknown. But good question. Let me go here on that question, because this is something that I'm putting a bit into my show as well. When you watch other shows about the species, about the subject matter, a lot of times, especially the current shows, that they bypass something that yet is well documented, and that's the danger side. There's an unknown, and you've got an unknown and a reputation on occasion for danger. It's not all puppy dogs and you know, fairy tales. There's dangerous story. The stories of danger. That it's not just a benign situation. Certainly native lore talks about some horrific situations. And I mean, on a fanciful level, I used to tell the story of the Headless Valley up in the Nahanni River up in the Northwest Territories of Canada as a guide. And for years we told the stories as guides, and I never considered Sasquatch. We always ended the story with, they never figured out what it was. Until I started reading native accounts of horrific incidences supposedly involving Sasquatch where men's heads were decapitated. That doesn't sound so benign to me. So when I'm out there and I'm dealing with a situation like in the Clem 2 where a big tree seems to be tossed out of the forest, a long way to answer your question, yes, I am more deeply concerned than if I've got a grizzly going by camp or a wolf or a bear or anything. Although I will say that I just got back from India and shooting a show in India, and I watched a Bengal tiger walk across the field in front of me. And the next night I had to stay up in a tree because a Bengal tiger was 75 yards below, heard him growl. So big cats spook me. they spook me, and they're real, man, really big ones. Yes, sir.
Let's say the question. When you are off by yourself and you got a camera, you say you have a knife, you carry bear spray, you carry a firearm.
Oh, well, what I carry, you know, because I show you on camera. So if I don't show it, I didn't carry it. And what I've done is, have I done bear? I don't think I've ever taken bear spray. But I have firearms, and I've shown that. In certain circumstances, like in the Arctic, they would not let me go out with a firearm. In India, where I literally just got back from India, and we're shooting this whole episode, and the guys going, they're going. So my team, like I have a team, but not with me. They go off. In fact, Max is here, is one of them. He'll go off. He gets to spend the week shooting sunrises and rainbows and trees and butterflies and having a beer, and staying in a room somewhere, and I'm still out there doing my thing, right? Well, so we just got back from India, and in India, in the Arctic, they wouldn't let me go unless I had a firearm. It was Canada, so they threw me one. Thanks. In India, they wouldn't let me have one, so they stationed out of sight of me armed guards. Why? For the tigers. That's all it's for the tigers and for the elephants. Apparently, they said they were way more worried about the wild elephants than they were about the tigers, but still the tigers. So, but to answer your question, I show what I have. I think on the odd occasion I might have had something that was relatively benign, and I never used it the whole week. And so, even though originally I would have filmed it on day one, and I have all this stuff, if I never showed up, I was like, oh, I cut that out of that part because there's no point to fit into the story anymore. But as far as taking, I have on occasion taken two-way radios. They don't work in the middle of the jungle. They don't work in the Utah Canyonlands, right? So that, I would suggest that when I have, and I don't always, but when I have taken a two-way radio or a sat phone, it then only works 50% of the time anyway. And so that means that the other 50% of that time, no matter what I'm doing as a filmmaker, I have to be survival smart first. Because if I get bit by a snake in the Amazon jungle, it's going to be body retrieval, it's not going to be rescue. And so I really am in those scenarios thinking, whoa, slow down, Stroud. What am I going to do now? You know, whatever the circumstance might be. You know? And I have to play it out very safe because yes, I could perish on a lot of these occasions. Absolutely.
On the series, you did the Alaska episode, and that's when you said you had that weird experience. You briefly said what you've heard, but what was it that you really heard?
Okay, so here's the story. I was in Alaska shooting the Alaska episode of Survivorman, which some of you may have seen. I did by sea kayak And I was not there on behalf of a Bigfoot anything. I wasn't even considering Bigfoot in my life, actually. I had experiences before that, but it wasn't even featuring in my life at all. And I was down, and you see the scenes, I'm ripping grass to make my grass bed, and every once in a while it's like, and then I go back to it. But it's just like I heard something, right? And my head's thinking grizzly. Well, it's grizzly. It's like, it was the kayak's over there. How fast can I get in that kayak? So I'm doing that's fine. That's fine. Then I heard a big snap of sorts. Now at this point, it's been a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. I've turned the camera off. I got all my grass bed making footage. So I had to turn the camera off and go back to finishing the grass gathering. Because when I turn the camera off, you guys see like the sped up scenes of what I do. That could be 5 hours, right? So I go back and now I'm actually gathering all the grass. Go back to it, camera's over there. Then I heard a loud crack. So I stood up, and now you've got that, and you asked about the fear level of me, like in the Clem 2 episode that just aired in the tree gets from. Now, you know how you just instantly have to start breathing through your mouth? Because your heart, it's like, because your heart's just going. And it's like, okay. Now I'm really thinking grizzly bear, full on. Okay, but this is like aggressive. That's an aggressive sound, whatever it was. But I'm not moving. Then, as I sat there, or stood there, sorry, I heard like that, only 25 times louder than any human can do. And then I heard it 4 more times for a total of 5 times, super loud. It would echo off these walls if it was in here. And I would say the distance is roughly that wall, maybe a little farther, maybe the grass. And so I was frozen. And this took about maybe a minute, 5 different times. I'm hearing this. So now, bears don't make that. I've heard bears bark and grunt. But this 5 times in a row and up the tree a bit. And just like that, I mean, none of this had the earmarkings of bear activity. You know, I've been around bears all my life. None of this, to me, I've had them walk charge at me, I've heard them grunt, snort, and bark. Nothing like this. So I stood and frozen, you know, breathing through my mouth, and my heart's pumping, and I'm looking at the camera, and I'm thinking, if I could just press record, which means turning it back on, and if any of you have ever turned on a video camera, switch. This is in the days of tape. And, no, not yet. Record, right? This is one of the reasons why you don't catch stuff when it happens. It happens and it's gone, right? But anyway, I hadn't even got to the camera. It's 20 feet from me. So finally, after the 5th time, now I'm getting ticked. I'm like, well, come on. Like, I'm thinking, like, come on. You're giving me deep concern. So I went like that, and I went to go and grab my camera. Before I could even get to the camera with that fast movement, it bolted from the bush that way off into the forest, and it sounded like a freight train going through the forest, like. Now I've heard moose make a big noise going through the forest. I've heard bear running through the bush. This sounded like a freight train. Like trees were being pushed aside and snapped as it went along. And not small trees, not big trees, but trees. And at that point on, now here's the rest of the epilogue of the story is, you know what I thought? I thought, Bigfoot. Anyway, because what else was I to think? I wasn't doing Bigfoot documenting it. And the next thought was, I can't tell anybody about this. Because the minute I bring this into the edit of the story, nobody's going to pay attention to my nice shelter. And my grass bed that I just made. So I never told a soul. I didn't put it in the film. It just was a personal experience, and I let it be. And then everybody thinks it was the Joe Rogan podcast when I told the story. That probably got the most attention, but actually, the first time it came out, which is why Joe asked me, was on the Opie and Anthony show on, I think, Sirius Satellite or whatever. And this was years later. And one of them just goes, "Hey man, have you ever seen a Bigfoot out there? He's just being a radio jock." And I was in it, and I always tell the truth. And I've never been asked that question, and I was like, uh-oh. And I went, actually. And then told the story I just told you, and from there, it went on, you know. But, as I said, I've never seen one. That was one experience, and I've had a number of experiences now. That was one experience, and that's what happened. Yes, ma'am?
When you heard that running,
Oh, we're still on Bigfoot, are we? Okay. But I heard the running.
did you go look and see what was damage had been done?
I was going to, but between me and there, it was all swampy muck swamp. And I'm still in survival mode. So I don't want to get my boots wet. I want a dry night, and anyway, it's Bigfoot. What am I going to do about that? Nothing. So it's like, I gotta finish building this shelter and film myself surviving in Alaska. I literally put it out of my head. And isn't that what happens a lot for anybody who's had an experience? It's crazy how often you'll talk to someone who has an encounter of sorts and then say, "And well, what'd you do about it?" Nothing. What was I going to do about it? Told my sister. That's about it. Told the guys at work. They laughed. Never told anybody else. And you put it back there. I've had 3 or 4 experiences before I started filming this series. I just forgot about it. I had one with my first wife. No big deal. She'll remember it, but we never talked about it. Had one on my own that I'd forgotten about. One of my first experience was one of those hair-raising, feminine-sounding, horrifying screams. I had that happen. I forgot all about it. So it's interesting you take it, and because you know it's a difficult, controversial thing, but yet you know you experienced it, and you take it, you put it back there, you put it on the shelf. I had to preface it with my opinion. If you said, what do I think it is? I would have copped out on the answer. I try not to have an opinion. There's my cop out. And Jeff Meldrum and John Bitter and Nago and I were discussing this, and this is where I differ from some people. I just think that, and I do this a lot on the show, if it exists, I think that it most definitely has to have an acquired I'm looking for not instinctual, but developed intelligence level that is more than we're willing to give it, because you can't be responsible for all of these anecdotal references and be stupid. Which is not to say, thank you, John, it's not to say that apes are stupid. Any primatologist will argue for the intelligence level of a simple ape. But I'm suggesting that this subject matter, that if it exists, it's got to have a level of intelligence that most of us are not willing to even entertain. And as I said, I differ even from my associates there, that even I would like to push the envelope a little farther than they do, because I still think for it to be able to do certain things, it has to have an intelligence level that goes beyond simple abstract thinking. So, I didn't answer your question, but that was my comment.
So have you ever considered going to Burma?
Absolutely, it's on the list. I keep a list of where I want to go, and Burma, Myanmar, is on the list, absolutely. And I just got back from northern India. I was tempted just to stay and then start going to these other places. Short answer is, yeah. There's hardly any place that's off my list. Yes, sir, in the blue there. Yes, yeah. Where would I want to go? Where would I not want to go? The impossible places. Sometimes people are like, why don't you try Survivorman on the side of a volcano. Why? Or in a cave. Locked in a cave. No. No, I mean, at heart, I'm a wilderness enthusiast, adventurer, call it what you will, trekker, hunter, fisher, all those things. And so I need to smell leaves and see wildlife and all that. I'm a wilderness guy to the end. So to turn this into a novelty act where let's see how much Les can endure in a dark cave or on the side of a mountain, or if he does like Aaron Ralston and gets stuck in a rock. No, that's not my game. My agenda has always been about connecting. It's always been about connecting to the wilderness, connecting to the earth, connecting to nature. That's really all I ever espouse. I just happen to do it through survival, because I love survival methods. I love primitive earth skills. I love high-tech survival. I love traditional bushcraft. I love that stuff, but what it does for me is it gets my feet on the real ground again and connecting with nature. And I know there's a great majority of people here who know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what I've always espoused with Survivorman. And, over the years, I've had people say, you're going to save some lives with some of this information. And I've been so lucky and humbled to see stories come out of a couple that survived because they watched Survivorman, or a guy who survived because he watched Survivorman. Those moments are a wonderful combination of being a point of being very humbled by it and very proud of it at the same time. However, those aren't the stories that touch my soul. The ones that touch my soul really are the ones where Survivorman has touched the souls of somebody else. I believe it's because of how I dedicate what I do to connecting with nature, period. On the beginning of every Survivorman episode you've ever watched, what you don't know is that morning I've sat down on the edge of the lake or the rock and I've calmed myself down, and all I've said to myself is and I've put out there to the universe is, whatever I do today, just let it result in something that is inspiring, creates a positive influence in people's lives. That's it. And then I get up and I make a show. And I think, well, this is really stupid. I'm just going to fireball. How inspiring is that? Well, then I started to get the letters. And I started to hear of stories that had nothing to do with someone surviving in the bush, but everything to do with surviving life. I'll give you one, and I'll try to say it, try to tell it without getting lumped up, and this is just one story. There have been others as deep as this. I was in Nashville, and I was recording some of my new album. By the way, I got Slash to play on my new album. Really cool. It's an album I'm doing called Mother Earth, and it's art rock, but it's cool. So anyway, I was recording some tracks for that, and I went off to the Frothy Monkey in Lincoln, Franklin, outside of Nashville, and I put a tweet. It's that day, it's that age. And I'm going to be down at the Frothy Monkey. Anybody wants to come down and have a chit chat and have a coffee with me? Because I know nobody really ever shows up. So, but I did anyway. I was down there, and I'm so way off track right now, but I still got to tell the story. And a father and a son, a stepfather and a son, coming through the door, and introduced themselves. And the boy's very nervous. He was 14 or so, and I'm me, so I'm like, hey, sit down, what's up? And I sat there and had a coffee with him for half an hour, picture, autograph, the whole thing. And the boy was just. Before they left, the boy hands me an envelope, and he says, this is from my mom, and she's just asked that you not read it while I'm here. Can you wait till I'm gone? I don't know what's in it. Okay. He goes off, day goes on, I'm recording. Later on that day, I'm in the car with my buddy Noel, and I said, oh yeah, I get this letter. And I hold the letter for him, and for a second I pause, and you can feel the weight of it, and I said, I'll warn you, I think this is going to be happening. Start reading it. And the mother says, you have no idea what your show has meant to my son. Because for the first, we should say, I think it was the first 7 years of his life, we were held captive by his father in a kidnapped fashion, and I was beaten to an inch of my life repeatedly, day in, day out. And the only thing that got him through this was him saying that if Survivorman can survive this night, I can survive this with you. So, try to read that and not ball your eyes out while you're reading it. It's that type of connecting to people that I think is linked to my connecting to Earth and putting that forward in survival that makes the difference. And then I step back and go, so all that intention that I put into my morning meditative state really meant something. It actually does. It happens. It works. I came from what I hope was a good place. I was just building shelters and doing firebows. But I wanted it to affect people's lives in a real positive way. I had no idea that it might be something as deep and as powerful as that. So that has been where Survivorman for me has come from. I forget where I was going on that, but I did want to let it do that. So, yes, sir. No, they got me on the next.
Okay, it's kind of a two-part question. I was like,
two-part.
Really, you started the series with your son.
Oh, my son.
Yeah,
With
how
my
is
son.
he doing? And two, would you ever do another series along with somebody else?
Yeah. Clearly, he's not been on Facebook, has he, guys? So, yes, my son is he is free and clear of cancer for 6 months now and doing well and building muscles again. And I got a girlfriend and playing hockey. He got 36 goals this year. So he asked me last week, are we going to do some more Survivorman and Sons? Because he wants some money to buy a car. And we probably will. And then as far as taking, so some of you who have been following Facebook know that actually, finally this year, and I've been asked this since day one, I put a contest out there saying, okay, how about I take one of you guys out with me? And I did a fan contest this year, and it was open to everybody, and people submitted videos, and I picked the winner last night. Woo! I ain't telling you. Could be one. Did anybody here? Did anybody here? You did? That wasn't you. So I'm gonna. Was it you? Okay. Which one are you?
The Dreams Become Reality, Joseph Eaton.
You're Joseph Eaton. I have your video on my laptop right now, right up there.
I'm honored.
And that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Nice video.
Thank you.
Very well done. So, as Joseph here can attest, we will be announcing the winner. I don't know when. Someone will tell me when we can announce it, and then we'll announce it. And I'm going to take someone, possibly Joseph, out to do a Survivorman episode with me. And that's the answer to your question. I like it a lot. Honestly, I'm so tired of being alone up there. I mean, let's face it, I'm a gregarious guy. I love people and friends. It's a combination of extremely boring and extremely lonely to be out there day in and day out for all that time. I've done, as I say, 59 episodes now. So this is actually a ruse so that I can go out and do another episode and not be so bored.
After not eating, does it affect your health?
After not eating, does it affect my health? Well, in this case, I'll just eat Joseph at the end. Sorry, dude. Part of this episode is called cannibalism. It affects me. Yeah, my biggest issue has been parasites. That's what's got me the most. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in the fetal position in some bizarre hotel bathroom. Yeah, it's not pleasant at all, and that is I've suffered from that. Hang on, that's more questions. There's a young man right there. I'm taking hits right there. No. I'm kidding. Of course I'll sign your book, but not yet. But you want to do now? No, that's not taking your shot. Right, you're first, okay? When we're done, you're first. Everybody see that? Yep.
Can I be second?
Okay. That's it. Anybody jumps in front of them, Joseph's going to beat you up. I'll go over here. This way. Yeah. You know where I will not film? Parks. I can't film in a park. The rules and the regulations, and you know, even if I say, look, can I at least eat grasshoppers? No, you cannot touch them. So I can't film in parks, which is a shame, because some national parks are just unbelievable. So I have to find private land or get permissions for BLM or whatever. So I've been. That's really it. The main thing, as far as where I can't film, and it only comes down to a park. Did you guys know that I actually got arrested? Yeah, I'm doing Survivorman. Strict rule: no parks. My field producer. My local fixer had finding me out where we were going to do this. It was the Alaskan episode, and that's all set. Awesome. We're on the boat on the way out there. Looking at the map. I'm looking at the map. I'm like, and I know Dan said, "No, I wasn't. It's not in a park." But I'm looking, and I can see the green shading, over the area where I'm supposed to be going. And it's not I think you guys think it was John. Joe, show me on the map exactly where the park boundaries are. Oh yeah, no problem. You turn over here and over here. You're right in the park. He didn't know. You're right in it. I'm like, oh, that's great. Now the whole we're there, can't turn back. So I proceeded to film. And here's something you don't know. It's an insider scoop. On day 6 of the Alaskan episode, the park rangers landed in an airplane. Came right over. I was actually off-site scavenging for seaweed or something, and they landed on my site. I'm like, oh no. I sea kayak back, 3 men, they got clipboards, and they're looking at all my stuff, and I got like a net in the water, so now I'm a Canadian in an American park filming without a permit with a fish net in the water. Oh! That's just awesome now. I did some quick double talking, but he wasn't satisfied, and he didn't really know what I was doing, so I kind of fibbed it off as being some sort of exploratory filming, which is legal. And then the next day I had to go into the office. By the end of the time, I was like, yeah. The fines racked up from $200, and then they ended at $2,800 in fines. And I never got arrested or charged, anything like that. I just paid this fine, so filming without a permit, and all these other things. Turns out the land I was on was historical, archaeological, native land site. Like, oh, great. It was just like everything wrong, and in the end, I paid a fine and it was done. But from that moment on, I said, never more my staff. Ever. If you're local fixing and you're scouting the areas that I want to go, so they'll go ahead of time and make sure, sir. No parks. No parks. Mr. Kelly Shaw was here as a friend of mine. I went filming. We've had to film on private land. It's the only way that it works for me. So I'm like, oh, there you go. So I can kill things and ruin things. So, yes, and I'll go back there. Do I learn? Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I've always talked about. When I go out there, I absolutely try to spend about 3 or 4 days at first on the land training with a local survival expert. Often in the remote countries, it's going to be an Aboriginal, but even like in the States, it might be like a desert dude, who's just like super versed in desert survival. And I love, that's my part of everything I do is 3 or 4 days, because my job is to then survive there and show you these skills. My survival skills are pretty global, but that doesn't mean I know what plant to pick in India, what plant is going to kill me in Costa Rica, what fish I can actually catch in the Amazon jungle. So I need to be trained in that. So I go, I train, and then I get dropped off. And literally, it's like the next week I'm teaching it on camera. But I remember David Halliday, who's from Boulder, Idaho, who helped me with my desert shows. He watched the shows later and said, how did you remember all that stuff I taught you? I said, well, because I love that stuff. You show me this plant, and then I taste and eat it. I'm not going to forget that in 5 days. I love the skills, so yeah, I'm like a sponge on those weeks. It's awesome. Yes, sir, in the middle.
How long does it usually take you to remember physically?
It changes. For some strange reason, it doesn't take as long as it used to. In the beginning, mandatory. I need 5 weeks to come back from it, sort of thing. My body's kind of got used to the feast and family thing. So now, unfortunately, sometimes it's like 2 weeks, in between. That's it, which is not enough, to be honest with you. What was the second part? Hardest episode on my body. Yeah. What was that one? Hardest episode on my body. I'm trying to think. I can tell you this. The most difficult place to survive, bar none in the world, is not based on geography. It's got nothing to do with geography and location. It has everything to do with temperature. You can give me the horrifying terrain, but if it's 75 degrees, I'm good. Let's chill for a while. I got forgiveness time. The minute you drop it below freezing, you have to work and never stop working. The colder it gets, the harder it gets. So for me, it doesn't matter about geographical location. No place can boast being the hardest place to survive. It's only temperature. And you cannot stop. You can't afford. Survival is proactive no matter what, but you have forgiveness time when it's above freezing. Below freezing, you have no forgiveness time. When I become hypothermic, sit and do nothing. So you've got to keep moving. The desire to come back and like it kind of beat me. I want to go back and prove it better. Yeah, I think the jungle. I didn't really feel. I felt the jungle's a nervy place to be. Everything's poisonous. The Amazon jungle. You know, in the Amazon jungle, you don't come like walking up. You go lean on a tree. And go. So where do you want to go next? You don't do that. You have to walk up like this and go. So, you want to go in? It's really, where'd you go there? It's really tricky in the jungle to feel relaxed. I mean, it's darn conga ants alone. And everything there has, I'm talking the Amazon, has a poisonous nature to it. It would seem. You don't just sit and relax. So I wouldn't mind going back and kind of figuring it out a little better, because I never really relaxed there. And then the jaguar came along. So, from the site.
How does your family come into play when you're out on the shoot and you're thinking in the back of your mind, my kids, and something happens, and would your daughter ever consider going out?
My daughter? In the beginning, when they were young, especially my son, they were nervous. They didn't quite understand what Dad was doing. But they were more nervous when I did Shark Week and the sharks. That's what spooked my son a lot. They kind of understood in short order that, Daddy's good at the survival thing. This is what he does, and because I told them, I'm good at this. This is what I do. And so they kind of grasped that. Now, I mean, she's 19 and at university, I don't exist. And no, I do. She's lovely, and I just had kidding with it. But she's 19 and at university. So anybody with a 19-year-old daughter knows exactly what that means. And then my son and I, we're kind of like best friends. I mean, so he's always wanted to come out. For me, that's the hard part. The loneliness of being away from them. That's tough. It's really tough. Because, you get halfway through, on day 4 of every single Survivorman I've ever shot, I quit. In my head, I'm like, what in the hell am I doing it here again? Why am I doing this again? Because I'm cold. I mean, when you wake up, if you haven't done bush time, if you wake up and you've got a flu bug really bad, and you get those chills, and yet instantly you're like 8 years old again, and you're crying, and you just want to be toast with your mom. And that feeling, okay, so imagine doing that over and over again to film Survivorman. Waking up at 3 in the morning, in the middle of the night, sleeping in the mud. The worst night I ever had, I was dreaming that I was literally on a sunny, grassy area playing with my 2 kids who were toddlers at the time. I woke up in Papua New Guinea with my face in the mud. And I'm telling you that, if that doesn't send shivers down your spine, I was just like, wow, what am I doing here? It was horrible. So it affects me in strange ways. Hey, what? Open mic night where? Flipside Lounge. Is that like the international symbol for harmonica? I don't know how long you guys want to go, and I'm happy right after this to meet you personally. Tell me what time it is. 8:02.
8:03.
Roughly, they said, do it for an hour, but you guys cool for another 10 minutes? Yeah. Okay, I don't want to bore you. Some people are like, I'm out of here. So, yes, sir. Where I don't think I could survive for an extended period of time? The Kalahari Desert. You can get by for a certain period, and then it's just like there's just nothing there. You need to be able to gather something, catch something. I can tell you the converse of that. My favorite place to survive, or what I would suggest is the easiest. So long as there's fresh running water, a tropical island. Gilligan's Island. It's really, coconuts, fresh running water. The ocean is going to keep bringing up crabs and everything else. You can get small fish all the time. So if you had to survive, tropical island survival, I think, is basically the easiest. Easy, relatively speaking. Survival is still tough no matter what. Red shirt.
What's like the most amazing thing you've ever seen while you're out in nature?
Most amazing thing I've ever seen while out in nature? Oh God. I don't nail that down. It's all of it. I think my most beautiful places, the Canyonlands through Utah and up through here, the high Canadian Arctic, the high Andes in Peru. It's just vistas. I can tell you one of my most amazing experiences with wildlife was really touching to me, and I've got lots of wildlife experiences. I was jogging along my trail in northern Ontario, and that's my jogging. And I stopped because I'm fat and old, and I was walking, and then I saw something was coming through the bulrushes, cattails, and I said, and so I stopped and thinking by the size of it, I bet you that's about a 1-year-old bear, a black bear, it's got, and it was coming towards me. I knew it didn't know I was there, but it was coming this way. So I froze. I kind of waited. Yes. I could see this thing was going to pop up on the trail right in front of me. And it did. 3 feet in front of me, pop up on the trail. It was beautiful Canadian wings. And it didn't run away. It stopped and it looked at me. And then it went like, you can see its nostrils sniff at me. And then he kind of turned, started to walk away. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? So I went. Like I would do to any neighbor's cat, And didn't it turn around and come back to me? And it came within inches of my fingers. And just sort of turned and slowly walked away. Now that was magical. It was a magical moment in the wilderness for sure. Yeah. My favorite survival technique. I would suggest my ability to get a fire going. What's the number one thing you take in the wilderness with you? The number one, to me, it's always about fire. Kalahari Desert or the high Canadian Arctic, I don't care. Jungle, so long as I can have a fire that night, changes everything. I personally, there's going to groan a couple of guys here, but I personally would rather have a perfect way of getting a fire going than my knife. I would rather be able to get the fire going than have a good cutting blade. To me, everything I've experienced out there, it's the essence of calming you down, making you feel better, boiling and purifying your water, cooking your food, keeping away the boogeyman, signaling to rescuers. It does everything. A knife cuts things. So I don't mix things too, but you know what I'm saying. So that's the big thing for me for survival. I was wanting to fire on. Lady in red. I know the producers of Man Tracker very well. He's a friend of mine, and we went to create the show, and we actually discussed how to film that show. Then they proceeded to make a show that's basically set up, and stories are scripted, and guys are put in places where they need to be to get good camera angles. Then they spent 3 years asking me if I would come on Man Tracker, and I said, sure, can we do it for real? No, we need to set it up, then I'm not coming on. Will you come on this year? Sure, can we do it for real? No, we have to set up, then I'm not coming on. to be. It's got to be real. 2, black hat.
So this is a business for you. This is part of your livelihood. 15 years ago, things may have been a little different. TV's difficult, other shows. What are the biggest hurdles and challenges in keeping this going as a business?
As a business? Oh, hell, it's never really been a solid business for me anyway. I mean, and then after the divorce. Money. I think, to me, sure, there's business sense to what I do, but I, in my heart and mind, have always approached this as an artist. I'm a filmmaker. I want to tell a beautiful story. I'm a documentarian, so I want it to be authentic and real, but I still want to tell it really well and beautifully. I've only ever approached this as an artist, trying to create art. And if I fail in that, I slip over into, that's why I don't dance like a monkey. Because I'm not interested in being a dancing monkey. There's so many other things I could have done, other ways I could have done. I have no interest. I refuse to fake my show because in my world, this is art I'm creating here. You see, there's a thing about being an entertainer or a creator, is that when you do that, you enter into, in my opinion, a contract with you guys, people who are about to view your work. And then my contract states that if you're going to give up 43.5 minutes of your life to watch my work, that yes, I'm getting some pay for, then I need to put all my artistic passion, love, and life into that 43.5 minutes, or I don't have the right to ask you to sit down on your couch. So it's not, I'm not a businessman, never have been. I'm doing okay because I'm smart with money, but I'm nowhere near all these other shows that came on, all the copycat shows that came along after. They're all laughing their way to the bank. More power to them. Not me. I'm still just out here kind of doing my thing, which again is based on hopefully being some kind of artist. I hope that answers your question. An early young age, I grew up, this is going to date me, but I grew up with Jacques Cousteau and Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom and Tarzan movies. So that was my early inspiration so that I could go out behind the cottage and build little shelters. Then I got away from it because I got into rock and roll. When I got back into it and decided just to get out of music and get right into wilderness adventure, the first book was Larry Dean Olson. You guys know Larry Dean Olson? His master. So Morris Kochanski, Larry Dean Olson, these were the survival guys and the books that I really respected and read and got into. But the filmmaking really still goes to throw back to the days of Jacques Cousteau. That's, I kind of, if you think about it, I loved Jacques Cousteau and Tarzan. And what is Survivorman other than a weird hybrid of those two guys? Next show, loincloth. Yes, the young lad could do. What would I do if I encountered Bigfoot? I don't know. I really don't know. But I'll tell you my theory. Can't outrun this, whatever it is. Sure, I don't think I can take it. It's a little bigger than me. But I have a feeling that the best approach would be the humble approach. Admit defeat right away. And just basically be like, whoa. Just be humble and know that you are dominated at that point. And I think that would be a potential way of dealing with it. And I have actually heard anecdotal references to that being a successful way of kind of, getting out of a potentially dangerous situation unscathed. But that doesn't mean they're all going to be dangerous situations. So I really don't know. I don't know. That would just be cool. Hey, what's up? The bull moose, you know that story? That was where I'll use the word scared. He's referring to a story where, in fact, I'll tell a story and then I'm going to jump down. I'm going to give you the next question. I'm going to jump down and I'll meet you guys hopefully kind of quickly because I don't want to go up here. This is before Survivorman. I was in Northern Ontario and I was researching a location to teach some survival, and I went way off the beaten path. And at this point, I was at the peak of my game. I was teaching survival all the time. I was so confident and comfortable in the bush, and so I went off miles, walking through, found my spot, oh, I'm going to walk from here, oh, this is going to be good. So I go walking back, and I come upon a moose, a beautiful cow moose, just eating in the swamp. Do you guys is there moose in Idaho? Oh, yeah. Forgive my ignorance, I just live in town. That's why I see the little black moose silhouette things. Okay, makes sense now. Well, lots of them in Canada, and beautiful cows just eating them. And so I stop. It's the same sort of thing. It's like the freeze moment. I stop, so it's lynx time again. I'm just going to take this in. I'm taking it in, and it's like, oh, well, here I go again. I got nothing to lose. I figure what I'm going to do with this call. See if she reacts. But I'm smart. I won't do a bull call. No, that's it. So I'll bring a bull in. I'll do a cow call. It's the female cow. It's the female moose. Which sounds something like this. I did that. She looks up. And goes back to eating. I did it again. She didn't look up. So I take it in another minute or two, and I think, oh, well, I gotta go. It's getting dark. I go like this. I literally took like half a foot in the air, and about 12 to 1,500 pounds of angry bull moose comes out of the bush beside her, full rack of antlers, and I swear, red eyes, bulging red eyes. It comes right up, and we're talking 50 feet, right at me, and I'm like, whoa, and I just, boom, and I take off, and now I'm running through the bush, and I'm running, and I'm running like this, but my canoe is over there. And so I'm trying to go on an arc, and I see a tree like this, and I'm running out of steam, and it's still chasing me. So finally I run, and I go up the tree, and I'm up at the top of the tree, and that was the first big time in my life where I was trembling, and I felt very scared, very deeply concerned. And this thing was down below, stomping, snorting, raking trees. I mean, a massive rack of antlers. This was an older fella, not a young buck. This was a big old fella, and I don't know whether he thought I was a potential mate or didn't want me touching his potential mate. But at some point, I'm thinking, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get, because it's getting dark. It's late September, and so I go to and he meandered off a little bit. There's my chance. So I jump out of the tree, and you know those cartoons where the cartoon figure is like in the air like this, and screaming down like this, and down and hits the ground? So that was me. I was running before I hit the ground, and the minute I start running, he picks up chasing him. And I do this big arc back, and every once in a while I duck behind a tree, and I'll be like, and he wouldn't lose sight of me. They're not magic. I mean, you can out-stealth animals on occasion. They're not, don't give them so much credit. Animals fall down crevices and break their legs. Why? Because it was dumb. It just happens. I was out-stealthing him a couple of times, but every time I would pick up and make a sound, he'd go, whoop, and he'd be right on me. Eventually, I came back to the lake. Now, it's late September. I've told nobody where I was going. My wife at the time was not even expecting me home for at least 3 days. I had no survival gear with me whatsoever because, hey, I teach survival, I don't need no gear. So I got this attitude going on. And meanwhile, I'm being chased by a moose in the middle of nowhere, and it's getting dark. I come up to the water's edge, and I get into the lake. Moose can swim really well. But I just went, and I'm like, neck level, and it's like, so it's just even worse there. I talk about being freaked out. So then I'm like, okay. So up the shoreline, the point, there's an established campsite. I was off the beaten path. Start to slowly go up the water. And I'm literally like in the water, you know, all my clothing, everything, it's cold, and I'm trying to make distance between me and the moose. And there's like a little snow bunting on a branch right here, it's a bird. And I'm like, I'm gonna go by. The bird's like looking at me. I never got that close to a little snow bunting before, and it's just like looking at me. And I finally make it up to the point. Now I've put the distance between me and the bull moose. Now I'm soaking wet. I'm at the point of land, and my canoe is way over there in the inlet. And between me and the canoe is the moose.
Great.
So I'm like, whoa, what do I do? And I'm like, please, somebody go by. Somebody go by. It's like nobody. It's like not that time of year. Sure enough, a couple starts paddling. A couple in a canoe. I think it was just a day paddle, a romantic day paddle. So I'm like waving arms, trying to call them over. And so you got to picture it. I got no tenting equipment, no gear. I'm soaking wet, standing by myself, waving over this couple in the canoe. They come over in the canoe, and then about 100 feet from shore, they're like, yes. That's me sculling the water with the paddle. And so I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And it took me like 15 minutes to convince them to let me get in their canoe. And finally, I got in their canoe. Now, it's like, well, my canoe's in there. Can you take me to it? So they take me into the inlet where my canoe is. The moose is now over there, maybe 100 yards or so. So there's some distance. And of course, because I was on my little survival excursion, I hid my canoe 50 yards up in the bush. No, could be at the shore's edge. Oh no. So I'm like, okay, thank you. And I get out of their canoe and I fold for my canoe. I literally, I swear, I grab my canoe with one hand, like running back with the canoe flailing behind me, like in the water, in the canoe, paddle, go, get out. And I'm here to tell the story. I will end this by saying that Survivorman, for me, has been an amazing dream to live through. It's still the real deal, and still authentic, and I'm doing a bunch more shows. I will keep doing it as long as the networks will have me in one form or another, but I'll also keep doing my music, and I will also, you know, mess around with the Survivorman Bigfoot and the phenomenon known as Bigfoot. It's all really interesting to me. I come by it hopefully with a great authenticity and a love for all these stories. So I'm going to keep going and do it. And most of all, thank all of you, because absolutely nobody asked me about Bloody Bear Grylls. That's me.